so many storylines to watch this season, beginning in LA. LeBron and the Lakers adding Russell Westbrook and Carmelo Anthony. They are the betting favorites to win the West as we speak. In the East, meanwhile, a lot of eyes are on the situation in Philadelphia. Ben Simmons is back for now. Doc Rivers hasn't yet decided whether or not he'll play tomorrow when they open their season against New Orleans. And then, of course, speaking of uncertainty, you have the situation in Brooklyn surrounding Kyrie Irving. He remains at an impasse. The team has decided not to allow him to practice or play with them at all until he complies with New York City's COVID-19 vaccine mandate. And speaking of the Nets, they are, despite that, the favorites to win the championship this year, according to Caesars. Keep in mind, last year, including the playoffs, Brooklyn was 11-3 when Harden, Durant, and Irving all played. But, of course, a lot of uncertainty about that. The one thing I'm sure of is that it is great to have Tim Legler back in our studio. He gets up with us here on the day the NBA season will begin. Legs, thank you. So let's start with that. With the Kyrie situation being as fluid as it is, how do you assess the chances Brooklyn wins the championship?
Well, going into the season a year ago, I said if those three guys stay healthy and they keep the drama out of the picture, nobody can beat that team. And Greeny, that's all they've had are injuries and drama since then. So I don't know how you go against Milwaukee. And the reason is this. A lot of teams, they get across that finish line, first championship in 50 years for their franchise. Giannis finally breaks through, and you think, okay, maybe a little bit of complacency sets in. The only problem is that guy won't allow that. He's about more than winning a couple MVPs and a championship. He wants to be one of the greatest to ever do it. His foot is going to be on the gas. That team has great chemistry. They've got enough on both ends of the floor. They're going to get Dante DiVincenzo back, who they didn't even have a year ago, because other than that, they pretty much stood pat. But he's a key guy for them. So for me, the chemistry, the defensive consistency, the lack of drama, and the confidence that that team now has, that Giannis will get it done when the pressure is its greatest, which was the question about him. He answered that. I think the Bucks are still the favorite for me.
I get it. But would that be, I get it because of the uncertainty surrounding it. It's hard to pick the Nets because of all the uncertainty. But we go back to what you said a year ago. If I told you right now, those three guys will be healthy and playing together when the playoffs begin, would you still take the Bucks?
No, I'd take the Nets then, but I just don't think you can bank on that right now. There's just too many questions that group of guys has to answer. Health, chemistry, drama, all of those things. They've got to come together. And last year, to me, it just never at any point really got rolling. And I know people are going to say, well, listen, they almost beat the Bucks with one guy healthy. Why would you not take him at 3R? But I'm saying I don't know if they're going to be in that state on April 15th when the postseason starts. Answer some questions, Brooklyn, for me for a couple of months, and maybe I'll change my mind. But I'm going to give the Bucks the benefit of the doubt, mainly because of what Giannis was able to do, and there were big questions he answered last year in the postseason.
All right, that's fair. Now let's get to the other situation in the East. We talked about Ben Simmons and the Sixers. Can they coexist?
It can't. I said it the day after the series ended against Atlanta, Greeny. I know that market. I've lived there a long time. They're not going to let him forget what that group of people saw. I'll tell you, the fan base, the media base, even his teammates and coaching staff, they saw a fragile psyche. You can't have a fragile psyche in the city of Philadelphia or any city really in the Northeast Corridor, but particularly Philadelphia. And now, when you make it known, I don't want to be there, and they let all this drama play out over the summer, and they know the only reason he stepped foot into that facility a couple of days ago was because of the money. Those direct deposits stopped. He said, man, this is escalating quickly out here. The money is not there, and that's why he shows up, and everybody in there knows it. This is a guy that made it clear, I don't want to play there anymore. The very first time he shows it again, and he is exposed, and that issue surfaces with him, lack of confidence, body language, whatever it may be. That base is going to start in on him, and they are going to be relentless until that situation gives. It's too much pressure right now with Ben Simmons being there. It can't end well, and they should have made that move over the summer, because I think it's going to become a buyer's market with the Philadelphia 76ers, with other teams around the league when they see where this could go potentially.
Quickly out west, if you were to come out of retirement and go play for the Lakers, we could describe it as a youth movement. They're that kind of old at this point. So, are they the team to beat in the West?
I think they are, and it's mainly because of LeBron James. I just think he's going to figure it out. Look, I know, like the Nets, health is an issue. They broke down a year ago, and they just got older. So let's see if they can hold up. But I think Russell Westbrook coming in, what that allows LeBron James to do is conserve his energy more than he ever has been able to, because they have a second battery pack You're not going to lose games now if he wants to sit or play limited minutes on certain nights. There's a better chance I think he is ready to go when the postseason starts. I think AD will be there again. It was an anomaly last year, the way he broke down when that happened. And now you add a guy like Westbrook. Now, look, they've got to figure out the last 6 minutes of games with Westbrook on the floor and his decision-making when he doesn't have the ball for most of the possession. That's what LeBron James and Westbrook have to figure out. We're going to get a taste of that tonight. I'm excited to see what that looks like in a game that matters. How do you close the deal at the end of a game with all three of those guys on the floor and Russ not having the ball? That's the biggest question to me, more so than their age.
All those questions start getting answered tonight.
Just have a higher usage rate. Their numbers are better. Obviously, a lot of these guys are on bad teams. They're not going to win a lot of games. But I just think you just never know who is going to emerge and is maybe a guy that was picked lower than he should have been. So give me the field on that. A guy like Jalen Green could put up big numbers. Evan Mobley could put up big numbers. So there's just too many guys that you can go with. But Cade Cunningham,
Mitchell, I mean, you got a lot of dudes who could do something, you know?
Yeah, D. Mitchell in Sacramento. I would probably go with the field. I love Cade Cunningham. But I think one of the most underrated backcourts, and probably because his youth, I mean, Jalen Green, and you talk about what they're going to be in Houston with the way John Wall can still play, that's going to be intriguing. He's one of the most exciting players that we don't talk about enough.
Mm-hmm. The field. I mean, they mentioned Mitchell. You talk about Mobley. You look at Green. I mean, all of those guys are still young, and you just don't know. Somebody can get hot real fast and sustain that to the end. We looked at Zion a couple years ago, and we clear the cut said he's going to be the rookie of the year. But then who was that emerged? All of a sudden, you look at Ja. He came out of nowhere.
One thing is Ja is the primary ball handler, to Tim's point. I like Cade Cunningham, just like the Luka thing. I'd make him the odds-on favorite easy. But that's not the same thing as saying you take him against everybody in the field. He's not the favorite, period. Sixers are the field for Ben Simmons to finish the season with, Tim.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. I thought y'all were going to make me work this morning. No, that's the field. Right. It can't work. It cannot work. Listen, I've lived there a long time. That market will not let him forget. The media, the fan base, they're not going to let him forget. He's only there for one reason, the money. Those numbers started adding up when those direct deposits didn't come in. He showed up real quick. He didn't realize how much bleeding was going to take place. He showed up for one reason. He doesn't look that thrilled to be there now. The first time he takes the court in that building, which if he plays Friday night against Brooklyn, it's going to start early and often. And the first time he shows that fragile psyche, they're going to start in on a level that he's never seen, and that's going to be the end of it. They had to make this done over the summer.
Imagine if the booing actually gets him to shoot. If he's finally like, I'll show you, and he starts shooting the ball, and he can actually shoot.
Oh, my goodness. Wouldn't that be something?
I'll go, Phil. Anybody that comes to the table with the narrative that, hey, these are professional athletes. They know how to work together regardless of circumstances, that's not true. Like, this is a circumstance that cannot be fixed. This one's done.
Yeah, the field. When a guy, you just look at James Harden. When a guy says he didn't want to be somewhere, you eventually got to move him because you cannot have a guy that wants to leave and be in another place try to make it work. You can't do it at all. It's just
field all day. Real quick answers. Damian Lillard or the field first 50-point game of the season?
I'll take Dame. I think it's a toss-up between he and Curry, but why not? Dame.
Sure.
I'll take the field. I'll take Steph.
Yeah, I'll take Dame.
I'll take the field. If it was the playoffs, I might take Dame, but regular season, I'll take the field. All right. Thank you, Tim Legler. As always, Key's top team in the real rank.